This is my brother from a different mother. I love him dearly, and so it's hard for me to speak about our relationship without getting emotional. We go way back, and he's been an important part of my spiritual growth, and as well as my emotional growth, just being a man that I can depend on when I need a man to talk to. So I do want to speak about the Vibe girls. I'm just, that's what I call them behind their back. To my son, who knows nothing about the fact that I meet with these ladies at these secret meetings in the mornings. He's like, "Where are you going?" I'm going to meet with the Vibe girls. So anyway. We have a fun time, and I'm blessed to be able to be the masculine energy in that circle of ladies. And what I do want to say also is how beautiful it has been to have a relationship with you ladies, and the fact that you've demonstrated trust right away. You don't really know who I am, and I walked in to sit down in a circle and said, "Yeah, my friend's name is Colin," and I said, "Okay, we'll bring him on." And it's like they had no contact with him whatsoever. It's all been through me, who they don't know. They set it up, and he sent on the flyers, and he showed up. So without further ado, my brother, Colin Tipping.
Well, thank you, Joey. As he said, he and I go back many, many years, and we have a beautiful codependent relationship, as well as a dependent one. So thank you, Joey, for bringing me here. You've been hiding them, though. You could have got me here a little earlier. I'd like to introduce my wife, Joanne, who's with me. Stand up?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Our relationship has been very much based on the work that we do together, and the journey that we're on now with the cancer is likewise a shared journey. So, in case you don't know, my name is Colin Tipping, and I wrote the book Radical Forgiveness. And it was one of the things it was about was how to prevent cancer. Now I get it. That's kind of ironic that that's come around. But there's a story about that which I don't know if we have time to actually relate the whole story, but it actually does make sense.
It does. Yeah.
Pardon?
It does.
It does make sense.
Yeah,
yes, and we're okay with it. It's okay. So let's see, I don't know where we're going to go with this at all, because I wasn't sure what the flavor of this group was and what you might be looking for. So I'll explain a little bit, I think, about where I am right now with the cancer, so you can ask me as many questions and type of questions that you can think of. You will not shock me. You won't embarrass me. I'll answer any question that you ask as honestly as I can. And I know Joanne would do the same if you want to ask one of her, because she's part of the journey too. So real quick, in 2015 I was diagnosed with rectal cancer, and we got rid of it in 5 months. So by November it had gone, which was gratifying. And then it came back again in 2017, and there was a lot more complications associated with that. So we went through a whole lot of things, as you might imagine, and finally came to the point where there wasn't much more we could do, and so the rest was going to be palliative care. Oh, okay.
It's scrubbing it for you.
Happened to me too.
Okay. Palliative care, which means, I'm on hospice, which is a wonderful situation, a wonderful arrangement to be in. They're just wonderful people, and we're getting incredible service from them. And so, how often do you meet?
Oh, once a month, or more than that when we need to. So.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll be here next month.
Okay. March 22nd is our next speaker.
Okay. after this showed up, which was a bit of a surprise for me because I've been healthy all my life, and as I said, you know, with radical forgiveness, I've always told people that if you clean out your closet, your emotional closet, you won't get things like cancer because you've removed the toxicity and so on and so forth. You know the story, I'm sure, about how that works. So, as I said earlier, it was a little embarrassing at the first instance. So, I put out an email when the doctor told me that I would probably have to have a surgery where I would lose my anus and I wouldn't be able to sit down for 6 months, and it would be, but it would be possible to do a resection. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. So I put out an email to my list. I've got about 30,000 people on my list. And the title of that was, "My Ass is on the Line." I need some help. Send me lots and lots of love and healing thoughts, but don't send me advice. I don't want advice, because otherwise I would be overwhelmed with all sorts of different remedies that have cured their granddaddy and all that kind of stuff. So that energy poured in. I got an incredible amount of energy coming in from the people who love me, and I know some of you probably are in this room, and that was just amazing. Before that, though, before this even happened, I wrote a foreword for a book that was written called Lead Light. I haven't got the, yes, I do have the authors. The authors, Jacqueline Jansen and Marilyn Geary, they wrote a book called Lead Light, which was an amazing book on how to plan for your death. So I'd like to read it to you because it sort of, it was the first part of my journey into thinking about planning my own death. How many of you, by the way, are going to die? Let me just see. How many of you have planned your death?
In process.
In process. Let me see. How many of you have planned your death? Not too many.
Don't know exactly
Not too many.
when.
Okay. Huh?
Don't know exactly when, but.
Don't know yet or when. Yes. How many of you know when you're going to die? Not many. Maybe so, I don't know. And just before we go any further, just to make sure, is there anybody here who is, in fact, dealing with impending death? I don't want to, I want to be sensitive to anybody that's already at that point of struggling with dying soon. Is there anybody that needs, no? Good. Just wanted to make sure. But let me read this to you because it was, I thought this was, the book itself was great, so I wrote this forward for them. My father died suddenly at the age of 63. He was working in the garden he loved on a fine sunny day when he had an instantly fatal heart attack. I was not yet 40 and had not in any way prepared myself for his death. It was a profound shock for me to lose him in such a way. Many people say that's how they would like to die. Here in one moment, gone the next. The thinking being that when you die this way, there's no suffering, no pain, and no anxiety to face. Of course, that assumes that we don't take our suffering with us. And we might want to discuss that little concept as we go on this afternoon. Where are we? This morning. There's no way of knowing for sure how it is for the person when death comes suddenly. However, there's plenty of evidence that derives from many thousands who have had near-death experiences. Anybody had near-death experience in the room? Near-death, Nick? Couple? However, there are plenty of evidence that derives from many thousands who have had near-death experiences that the suddenly departed spirit is very confused and in many cases not even aware that he or she is dead for quite some time. That's another thing that we need to perhaps talk about later on. How many of you saw The Sixth Sense? Yeah, right? That shows you that, you know, that's what we're talking about here. That the confusion after the guy got shot, he didn't know he was dead for quite some time. And interestingly, we didn't know either till the end of the film, right? Kind of shock. On the other hand, people say sudden death may be easier on the person who dies this way, but it's very hard on the people left behind. It's too much of a shock for them. That was indeed true for me, but now I think, as I think about it, it was only because I had given it no prior thought, and I had never made the time to have a decent conversation about our lives. Really important. I remember feeling cheated, abandoned even. But because he left so quickly, there was no possibility of having that kind of conversation with him. Now, my dad was one of these people who didn't share very much, didn't talk very much, so I really never got to know him. And I can honestly say, looking back, that I never had a decent conversation with him. He was a good dad, you know, but that's how it was for us. It was more than just a need to say goodbye. I wanted to have the chance to finally know him, touch his soul, and make the kind of connection I'd never been able to have with him in everyday life. If the dying had been slower, he might have been able to tell me that he loved me and had forgiven me for everything. I, in turn, would have been able to tell him the same. That would have been a completion. The grief would have been just as intense, but I would have been able to move through it a lot quicker. And I believe he, too, would have felt freer to move on to the spiritual realm, that he had the chance to complete with me, my mother, my brother, and my sister, and everyone else in the family, before the time came for the last breath to leave his body. This is a cautionary tale in the sense there's a lot of end-of-life planning that unconsciously focuses on the idea that death will come slowly and that we will always have time to take care of things. And how perverse it is that we think that the only right time to talk with each other is just before we die. The ubiquity of hospice care and the publicity surrounding cancer may be the reason for this, but life never works out quite as we plan it. And the manner of our dying is no exception. All the more reason, therefore, to do this work now rather than later, no matter how old you are. You too may be here today and gone tomorrow. Since developing in the early 90s a form of forgiveness known as radical forgiveness, which is now recognized worldwide as the easiest, quickest, and most successful method of forgiving out there, I have come to the conclusion that most of our pain and suffering in life arises from an unwillingness to forgive. Also, when we carry this with us into the death experience, the suffering continues. It's also my observation in my work with cancer patients that those who choose to take their resentments, judgments, unmet expectations, and frustrations with them tend to have a transition that is a lot more painful and a lot less peaceful than those who already have let go of all their victim stories. Even if your parents are already deceased, it's still important to forgive them if you haven't already done so. I can virtually guarantee that almost every instance where you have issues with people in your life now is based on unresolved issues with one or both parents. Every time. It's guaranteed. If you truly forgive your parents, you're almost certainly going to find that all other forgiveness issues that you have will melt away. Finally, there's the issue of self-forgiveness. No greater gift could you give yourself as part of your end-of-life planning than to first make a list of everything you feel remorseful about, and then apply the principles of radical self-forgiveness and self-acceptance to each one in turn. I've always thought of death as the final healing, but there is a great deal we can do while we're alive to heal ourselves, our lives, and our relationships. And I believe that forgiveness is the key to it all. So that was written, I don't know when, but long before anything turned up in my body that I had to deal with, firsthand. So it was interesting that I already had that little bit of information to share. So the journey for us, and I include Joanne in all of this because it really is a shared journey. When one person in the relationship gets something like this, it impinges really heavily on the partner as well, and very often more so. It becomes a heavier burden because the partner always tends to feel obligated to support the one who's ill, but it often happens the other way around. The person who is ill feels an obligation to take care of the partner or family, even worse. So that's where things can get very sticky too. So when things got sticky on the second time around, we decided that we would share the whole experience with everybody. That we would write about it, we would share every bit of planning that we decided to do with regard to how we were going to handle the death experience itself, who we would get to help us, what kind of team would we build, what kind of coffin shall we have, how we're going to paint our coffin. That's a story in itself, I'll tell you in a minute. And then to put it in a book, in a book form, which is completed as of now. It's completed up to this point, okay, of what's happened up to this point. Okay. And then there will be a second book, which will come out after I have departed this world, which will be a reflection of my own reflections as I was passing it through the experience, as well as the people who were helping me and being part of that. And Joey is one of those. Because we will have some ceremonies. We're having a home funeral, for sure. I have a whole team of people that are going to be available for when I go to come to my house if we've got time. I mean, all of this is difficult to plan because you never quite know when that moment's going to come. When I go, oh, gone, he's gone. But we'll have the home funeral there. And I will be on a long table in a shroud. You got a picture of this? It's going to be weird. And next to us is this painted box. Now, we went to the crematorium. We decided that I was going to be cremated, so that was one of the early decisions that we made. And we went to the crematorium. And apparently they had these big old cardboard boxes that they put you in when they shoving you in the oven. So I said, well, how much is one of those? And he said, what do you mean? I said, I want to buy one of those boxes. Why would you want to buy them? I said, I want to take it home and I want to paint it. I want to do some pictures on my box. So they got interested, right? And they said, no, not many people do that. I said, well, we want to have fun with it. So they said, well, we will deliver it for you, $29. I said, good, okay. So they actually got their van and they delivered this box, and we have painted it. Do we have a picture here that we've got?
It's on your phone.
It'll be on my phone. We'll try to find a picture of it. It's actually quite good. And so we did that. So that's now in our garage. Waiting, and that will be on the table next to me, covered in a shroud, because they said they can't come and pick us up, can't come and pick me up with me in the box. You have to be outside of the box. And then when they come with the truck, you know, they'll just put me in the truck and take me off with the box. And then when they get to the crematorium, they put the two together in the oven, right? So that's that. But we are incredibly blessed, though, with some people who are supporting us in this journey. If you're doing this on your own, it would be very difficult. And I think there's a lot of people. I think it's tragic that so many people die alone.
That show middle. I'll just.
Yes, just show it around. Yeah. You can actually
You want to
pass
see
the
me
photo.
afterwards, you want to see a better picture of it.
It's quite good.
It was a good project. It took us a couple of days, but it was fun to do. And we'll show you around. You'll get to see it. But as I say, I'm blessed with people who are supporting me. And one guy that I've known for 25 years, we've been part of a men's group for 25 years, meeting for whole weekends at a time to process stuff through and everything like that. Well, George Poirier is a really good friend of mine, and he has the capability of being able to converse with one's soul before the death experience, during the death experience, and after it. And so, so he's going to be with me. The idea is, as long as we can arrange it that way, is that if I looks like I'm going to croak any minute, Joanne will get on the phone and say, hey, it looks like he's on his way out. So he'll drop everything he's doing and drive up, and he'll sit with me until I go. And he'll stay with me all through the actual death itself, and he'll be with me 2 to 3 days after I've gone. And we'll continue a conversation with me after I've gone on the other side to help me complete. Because like I said before, you know, a lot of people die and they don't know they've died, or they're confused and don't know where, you know, what's going to happen. And of course, none of us really know what's going to happen. But if you've got somebody, he's just started a business, and he calls that service a death companion, being a companion and a guide to the death experience. And it's such a gift. It's such an amazing gift that I'm going to have for him. And I really do grieve for the people who die alone, that don't have that kind of support. So, but that doesn't mean to say that people who are approaching the death experience can't create that for themselves in some way or another. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who has that gift, and it is a gift. I'm not sure that he could ever teach anybody to do what he's doing. But there's a way in which you can build a team around the whole thing so that you feel supported, that you feel loved, and that you have a soft place to land, as Joanne calls it. So we'll have that. We had a lady called Melody LeBaron. She came down from Asheville and did a day's little seminar with us, and we planned ceremony. We planned feng shui for the room that I will be in. What we might call the hospital room. I don't know what do we call in that room?
Your bedroom.
My bedroom.
There's the hospital bed in it.
Yeah, my bedroom, like a rabbit actually. So, so she helped us plan all the little fine details and who's going to do what. Because one of the important things that I wanted was to take the pressure off Joanne. Because I think, when one partner dies, there's a lot of pressure on the one left behind to make decisions, and they're in no emotional state to make decisions. They're just too upset to make those kind of decisions. So we've got friends who, I'll write the obituary, I'll take care of the food, when we have people come, and that so it takes the pressure off of her. So death planning is really important.
And one thing that Melody did, which was really quite amazing, is she created that vortex of the grid around the bed.
Yes.
With a living person, and then a person from the other side, and then a living person, and then a person from the other side. And we created a circle around him. He laid in his bed, and we created this circle from the other side and from this side, every other person. And it was quite amazing, because there was a girl who was at work that day, and I hadn't told her what we were doing. I hadn't said, can I put you in our matrix? And I talked to her later that night, and she said, the weirdest thing happened today. She said, I just felt my heart opening up, and I was at work, and I didn't know what was going on, and I was just like this open vessel. And I said, what time did that happen? And she said, oh, about 4:30. And I said, you were in our matrix. I wanted to call and tell you that we can put you in the matrix. But she felt it, 20 miles away.
Picking up on what Joanne's talking about there, going back to the first time around in 2015, as I told you, I wrote the letter, my ass is on the line, please help. And George Poirier, my friend, and Joanne, created this breathwork session. We used to do a lot of holotropic breathwork, or holotropic type of breathwork. But the thing about that was, as I said, the first doctor had said that the tumor was 3.5 centimeters from the anal opening, which made it so that you really couldn't do a resection. Because normally with a tumour of that kind, the rectal, they can usually just, snip it out and join it up together again, knitting needles and a nice little bow, and put it back again. Okay. Well, she said that's not possible because it's just too close to do a resection, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to take out the whole thing. To which I answered in my head, fuck that. I'm rather attached to my anus. Yeah. So we went home, and that's when I wrote the letter. And how long afterwards did we do that session? Not very much, was it?
It was probably a month.
A month.
Yeah.
We arranged to do this session, energy work, and George is an astrologer as well, so he put out a whole thing about you must do on this particular day, this particular time, and please be sending energy right on the dot at 12 o'clock or whatever it was that he said was the most propitious time to do the reading, okay, to send this energy. 30,000 people, well of course not all of them were going to do it, but that was the potential. So anyway, they did this, and I'm not the kind of person who usually feels energy very much. People say, God, did you get that energy? I said, I didn't get it very much. But I felt it that day. I really felt it coming in. And after they had done their session on me, I went to bed, and about 2 in the morning I woke up. And it wasn't like when you wake up you just can't sleep or something. It wasn't that kind of waking up. It was like, boom, I was wide awake. And I could feel this energy coming in this area of my body. So I could just lay there, and I thought, I'm just going to accept what's going on here. So legs apart, very sexy. And then just wait, and this energy coming in. And then a thought came into my mind, or a person's name, a Dr. Stanley. Has anybody ever heard of Dr. Stanley? You're too young. I'm sure you're way too young. Dr. Stanley was channeled by a lady called Sally Vickers. Anybody know Sally? That was a long time ago too. I went to Sally because I had a chronic migraine for years. And she said, Dr. Stanley will fix it. As I said, Dr. Stanley worked from the other side. So I said, oh, okay. Because I wasn't very spiritual at that time. I thought, oh well, what the heck. So I went to him, and nothing much happened, and I forgot all about it. Now we're 30 years later, boom, Stanley comes to mind. Sally Vickers comes to mind. I thought, oh shit, they're in my anal. So that lasted about 2.5 hours. After which I got up and I put a load of big old post-its, the big post-it things up on the wall, and I wrote, yeah, I do want to live, because there was a part of me that had already flirted with the idea, I don't really want to live. What's the point? I'm 77 years old, why do I want to live anymore? So I was kind of ready to go at that point in my life. It didn't seem to be a bad idea. The alternative was not very attractive. I don't think old age is very attractive, do you? There's lots of things for it, and there's a lot more against it. The odds are pretty bad that you're going to go downhill rather than uphill. So anyway, I had pretty much flirted with the idea. So as I was lying in bed, I thought, I'm going to make an affirmation that I do want to live. So I put it on there. I want to live, but you better give me some reason to live. I don't want to just live for the sake of living. I want you to give me a job to do. Okay. And I did a big drawing of my anus again. You think I'm anal retentive? That's not usually my focus, really. but Spirit kind of gave me that. So I did these drawings and then went back to bed again. We had an appointment then with the oncologist, who then sent us to a surgeon. And the surgeon, whom I had real problems with, he was so happy, he so wanted to cut me up. He was all, a big old knife, he cut up, we'll cut this and we'll cut that and we'll go across here. So, you know, that wasn't very attractive to me. But anyway, I didn't do it then, but he has a little tool called a sigmoidoscope. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate that, but you can imagine what it is, right? He puts this thing up my backside and he said, oh, we got plenty here to work with. The tumor is 8.5 centimeters. That's a lot different from 3.5. How the heck did that happen? With all the energy that I had sent to me, the answer to my email, mouse is on the line, was given. It moved the damn thing up 5 centimeters.
And the way we know this is because your oncologist said, oh, you've had surgery done there before, right? No surgery done before.
Yeah, that was the confirmation. When we went back to the oncologist and he read the notes and everything like that, and he said, oh yeah, it's quite clear you've had surgery before. I said, no, I've never been near a hospital before. Oh yeah, he said, you must have forgotten. And he got distracted, so he got distracted, so we both looked at each other and said, Dr. Stanley.
Did you share with this oncologist any of your experience with Dr. Stanley?
No.
I don't have any.
Yeah.
She said, did you share it with the doctor?
Oh, no. Having said that, he was a nice doctor. He supported me all the way through. No problems with him at all. Whatever I wanted to do, he was fine with. But I don't think he would have recognized Dr. Stanley as one of his colleagues.
So did you see scarring at the 3.5 centimeters? Oh, there was scarring there?
That was the first doctor's prognosis, was 3.5,
Right,
3.5, yeah.
He said you had surgery because he could see evidence of
Scar tissue. And I mean, you know, Dr. Stanley, that was 30 years ago that he came into my mind. Yeah. So asking for help is a big deal. Whenever you have these experiences, asking for help, you're going to get it. I don't know where to go from here. I think we might just well open it up for questions. What do you think?
Do you want to share the lady's experience?
Yeah, okay. Now, a lot of people are really frightened of the word cancer, right? They won't even say it. They'll say, the big C, the big C. Or, you know what? They don't even let it come out of their mouth. To me, if you're a young person, it's frightening, obviously. You don't really want to die if you're only 27 and all that kind of stuff. But I think the amount of pain that you suffer from something like that is going to kill you due to your erroneous beliefs about death. And the more you believe that death is a failure or an accident or shouldn't have happened or is something to be regretted and so on, then the more pain you're likely to suffer during the illness that you're struggling with. Do you understand what I'm saying now? I didn't say it very well, but it's almost like there's an inverse relationship. The more you have negative feelings about death itself, the worse it's going to be. The experience of dying is going to be worse for you, and you're likely to suffer much more pain and discomfort around that. And of course, the family are going to give you hell. A lot of times it's the family that causes the pain, because they want you to do this and they want you to do that. You've got to go see this doctor. You've got to go to Mexico, and do all that kind of stuff. So this lady that we're going to talk with, we just saw this lady on Facebook the other day, and we said it would be lovely for you to hear this lady about her attitude to death, and she says it so beautifully. So let's
About 4 minutes.
yeah.
So you'll be able to hear it, you may not be able to see it, but
Yeah, you won't be able to see it, and it doesn't matter.
So now it didn't want to work. Twice it interrupted and now it's... Oh, I know why. Hang on a second. I put her on silent so they wouldn't ring.
Okay.
That's when I came in and interrupted. So you want it to ring and then...
Oh, boy.
I'm so grateful for people who can do stuff like this.
I'm going to first tell you something that in my grandmother would have elicited a 5-boy alarm. Oi, 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 oi. And here it is. Are you ready? Okay. I have stage 4 lung cancer. Oh, I don't worry. I don't feel that way. I'm so okay with it. I simply just don't understand the mindset of people who are out to defeat death and overcome death. How do you do that? How do you defeat death without killing off life? It doesn't make sense to me. I also have to say, I find it incredibly ungrateful. It's disrespectful to nature. The idea that we're going to dominate nature, we're going to master nature, nature is to withstand our intellect. No, I don't think so. I am incredibly grateful for life, but I don't want to be immortal. I have no interest in having my name live on after me. And in fact, I don't want it to. I love being in sync with the cyclical rhythms of the universe. That's what's so extraordinary about life. It's a cycle of generation, degeneration, regeneration. I am just a collection of particles that is arranged into this pattern, then will decompose and be available, all of its constituent parts, to nature to reorganize into another pattern. To me, that is so exciting, and it makes me even more grateful to be part of that process. I look at death now from the point of view of a German biologist, Andreas Weber, who looks at it as part of the gift economy. You're given this enormous gift of life, you enrich it as best you can, and then you give it back. And, you know, Auntie Mame said, life is a banquet. Well, I've eaten my fill. I have had enormous appetite for life. I've consumed life, but in death, I'm going to be consumed. I'm going into the ground, just the way I am. And there, I invite every microbe and a treatiser and a composer to have their, I think they'll find me delicious. So the best thing about my attitude, I think, is that it's real. It's not, you can see it, you can observe it, it actually happens. It's not, well, maybe not my enriching the gift, I don't know about that, but my life has certainly been enriched by other people. And I'm so grateful to you. I don't want to say the audience, because I don't really see it as we're two separate things. I think of it in terms of quantum physics again. And, you know, quantum physicists are not exactly sure what happens when the wave becomes a particle. There are different theories, the collapse of the wave function, decoherent, but they're all agreed on one thing, that reality comes into being through an interaction. And every audience I've ever had, past and present, thank you so much for making my life real. Thank you.
So while we're, just right quick, if you have to go to the restroom or get a snack, please feel free. Colin will just go on and on.
Nicely put.
And we're blessed that he does, so just feel like if you need to grab a snack and go back and move on.
Restroom that direction, restroom that way.
Joy, what was her name, if we want to look that up?
I don't know, Joanne might know.
Ellie something, it's a TED Talk.
You
Ellie,
don't find it. Yeah.
it's on, at the very end on that. If you
Oh.
look at it, her name is at the very end. Ellie,
But what we liked about that was the, you know, how she expressed her passion for life. And yet, she was just as passionate about the process of generation, degeneration, regeneration in a cyclical way. Because that is nature. That's how nature works. And every other being on the planet follows that rhythm. And like she said, you know, how, what was the term she used? How,
Disrespectful.
no, it was that word that we are so, I sometimes get this thing that's part of what's going on with me right now, I forget things. But anyway, we have the temerity to think that we can interrupt that pattern, that we can master nature, that we can bid it to do what we want it to do, out of our ego more than anything else, because we've shut ourselves off from that natural rhythm of life, death, regeneration, and so on, which is a beautiful pattern. I've had a good life. I think I've made a contribution to it. The first half of my life was pretty stupid. Didn't do a whole lot with it, really, when I think back on it. And I had no metaphysical or spiritual background whatsoever when I came here in 1984. I had none. No religious ideas or spiritual ideas, none of that. And I was, how old was I? I came here and I was, 43? 42, 43, and we married in 1990. But Spirit had gotten me to America, there's no question about that. And that's a story in itself, how I was almost tricked by Spirit, and I was mad at Spirit, I can tell you, when I got here. I was so pissed that he or she or it had somehow conspired to make me leave my family, my job, which I was, teaching at university. I would have been there for, until I was 65, fully tenured. I left the house. I left everything to come to America for what appeared to be a good idea, but was actually a stupid idea. But it was one that got me here, and there was no going back. I could not go back. And that was a major shock in my life. And then it was 15 years before it was time to write that book, Radical Forgiveness. And that story in itself is quite a story. But we struggled for 15 years because it wasn't time to write that book. If I'd have written that book in 1984, when I first came here, it would have gone nowhere. No one would have been interested in forgiveness. Nobody. They were all about, creating parking spaces and all that kind of, creating your own reality and, But forgiveness, forget that. I've got to do work. I'd rather get revenge. I would say if I'd written a book called Radical Revenge, I'd be a rich person. But no, we struggled, and Joanne and I, we were on the breadline for a long time. It was a struggle. But I always knew that there was a book to be written. There was, when you look on the bookshelf, there was A Course in Miracles at one end. How many of you know Course in Miracles? Oh yeah, you're familiar with that. Okay. Course in Miracles at one end, which was a difficult book. I found it very hard to deal with, right? I could go to sleep after 20 minutes. And then up the other end was all the mushy stuff, the meditations and, doing all the fancy stuff and eating this and eating lettuce and, doing all that. And then there was the guy on television, what was his name? Dr. Phil. Okay. Let it go! All you got to do is let it go, Well, how do you let it go? There's no way. You don't know how to do do that. So I always knew there was this book to be written in the middle there somewhere. So I go into the bookstore and I look to see if anybody had written it. No, nobody's written that book yet, thank God, you know. But I haven't got the time or the money to write the book. And in any case, I don't know what I was going to write. And then one day I went to a conference down in Hilton Head, and I went to listen to a lady speaking who was quite obscure at the time. Her name was Caroline Mace, but nobody knew her at the time. And she was giving this talk, and I thought, oh shit, she's going to write that book. Oh my God. Now, I was trying to be a real estate at the time, making no money. I was a hopeless real estate agent. So I came home and I said to Joanne, I'm going to throw away my pager, because at that time there were no phones. I'll throw away my pager and I'm going to quit doing that, and I'm going to write that damn book. And she said, I've been waiting 3 years for you to hear you say that. So that's the kind of support that I got from her. The very next day, she had been doing pen and ink pictures for real estate agents as gifts to their clients. Okay? And she was making pretty decent living, but not much, right? Because it took it forever to do those pen and ink drawings. Knock on the door, there's the builder that she's done a few drawings for. He's got a big roll of plans and elevations, and he said, I want you to do all my houses. Pen and ink drawing for all of them, because you're the only one that I know who can take a plan and an elevation and make it a good perspective. That was a year's worth of work to keep us going while I wrote the book. So it's, you know, the amount of support that we got from Spirit is just amazing, and continues to be amazing.
Sorry, can you fill me in on how you got to America and you had no spiritual inclination at all? And how you came to the point of
I'm not for 1 sec. Who has a red Mini Cooper? We have a little issue. And a black Mercedes.
I don't know.
Does somebody,
Construction trucks.
On the cul-de-sac? Behind the, we have a little issue.
well,
Sounds like it's been moved for you.
You'll be back, right?
Spirit will be with you.
So the question,
Sorry, how did your spiritual journey begin?
Well, like I said, you know, I had no spiritual background to it, but I had just come through a divorce, my second divorce, and I'd gotten rid of everything in my life, and I was sort of getting interested in philosophy, sort of metaphysical philosophy, and reading a few books.
What were you teaching?
Oh, I was teaching art and design, and I was training teachers in art and design. Nothing to do with it. But I've always been a counsellor, though. I've always been the one that people would come to, even the adults. I'd always been the one that people would come to for help, emotional help, because I said, people seem to trust me. They tell me all sorts of things. I'd make a fortune on eBay today, I mean, but... Anyway, so... because Atlanta at that time was pretty hot as far as the spiritual work that was going on. So there was a lot of high vibes here in Atlanta in '84. There was a lot going on. So I was kind of drawn into that, into the circle of friends, and they said to me, "You need to come to Unity Church." I said, "I don't do church. The only time I go to church, I get angry and go away." So that's not the same kind of church. At least come to the Wednesday night talk, Carol O'Connor. And I went to that, and that was really the opening. And then Arnold Patent, have you heard of him? Not many people have, but he was the one that really set me off, really on the book. But the book got downloaded. That's, because I really didn't know too much about it. And when I first started writing the book, it seemed like I've got to find everybody else's book that anybody had written on forgiveness. And on my computer, I had all these books everywhere, and I'm trying to think, now, what did he say about it? Oh, she says the opposite. Oh, shit, what am I going to do? In the end, I said, I'm going to throw away all these books and just write what comes. And that's how it happened. I just wrote down.
Does that happen to you in other parts of your life where you just?
I think I'm already always getting down low, but I'm not that sensitive. You know?
Well, if you're in the art world, if you're in art and design, I think a lot of that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. She says I'm very intuitive and all that, but I don't. You know, I say I'm not very spiritual. I'm not really a very spiritual person.
When people are drawn to you to tell you their life stories and their secrets of their soul, then you are without. It's just that you are without trying.
Yes.
You're not. You don't have to work.
It just comes naturally to me. Yeah, it does. Yeah, and I'm very, very humble about that. I try to keep my ego out of it as best I can. So I don't know. Where do you want to go with this? Want some more questions? Yes. Right.
Your opinion, please. I have a friend who has brain tumor, and she's been doing all the chemo and the radiation and so forth. And it's taken its toll on her, and she does not want to talk about death. Her family's in complete denial.
Yeah, it's typical.
And nobody wants to talk about it. And my heart, I agree with you with regard to talking about death and being present to it and so forth, totally. My heart says that that will be less suffering for her. But everybody's shut down. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's baffling to me.
It is, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Except love the people involved.
Yeah.
That's really the only power we have to change things, is to love it the way it is. That's the only way we can change anything, is to love it the way it is. And that's hard. When you see people like that suffering.
And I'm interested in what you said about taking the suffering with her.
Oh yeah.
That to the other side, or as she goes, and so forth. And could you say a little bit more about what you know about that?
Well, I don't know. I don't think we know anything, but we can surmise from a number of places, and near-death experiences is one of those places where we hear stories of people that have gone and then come back, and the degree of synchronicity between the stories is quite amazing, enough for us to think that that's anecdotal evidence, at least, that everybody's experiencing roughly the same thing. You get there, they go up the channel of light. When they get there, they're met by this beautiful light, which people interpret as spirit or God or whatever, and then they go through a life review, and then they may meet their relations, or they get told, hey, this time you really need to go back, you haven't finished yet. There's more for you to do. Right? Are you all familiar with that story? That's pretty much how it goes. Where were we? What was the question? It was
I'm almost 76, so I don't remember the question.
Oh yeah.
I was going to the other side.
She was in the light.
I think there's sufficient evidence to suggest that we do take our suffering with us when we go over the other side. That the people that commit suicide, I'm sure, are very disappointed when they get there. Oh hell, I thought I'd gotten rid of all this stuff by shooting myself in the head. Now I discover that I've taken it all with me. Oh, what have I got to do now? So I think there's a really strong suggestion that we should do all our forgiveness work before we die, if possible. And what I say is, you want a forgiveness bucket list. a forgiveness bucket list. Clear everything that you have. Any resentment, any misunderstandings, all of those things that you carry with you now, even the ones that you think you've gotten over, but really haven't, because you think about them every now and again. You do the work before you go. Not only does it help you, it helps the other people. The people that you have judgments about. It clears them as well. So it's reciprocal in that sense. You're doing it for yourself and for the other person, although they don't know it. And I don't want to suggest that forgiveness is about doing it for someone else. You're not doing it for someone else. That's not the point. Forgiveness is a selfish act. You're doing it for you. But there will be a knock-on effect, energetically, to the other people. And they don't need to know that you're doing any forgiveness work on them. Otherwise you interfere with that energy exchange. Okay? It's like, hey Nick, I've just forgiven you, bro. I've been holding on all that time. Now I've forgiven you. You're just a great guy.
Sorry, I haven't read the book yet, but.
Oh well, there's time for you to read it.
But processes for those? I mean, I'm just thinking about some people that love to hold on to their, anger and their resentments, and does the book give instructions on it, or is it just that you have to make the choice?
The book does. The book introduces you to what I would call the spiritual technology of radical forgiveness. It is a technology, but the book is worksheets. But the book is not it. Because a lot of people say, I've read the book, and I say, great. Have you done a worksheet on it yet? Oh, no. I said, well, you missed the point. Because you have to do the forgiveness work using the tools that are provided and introduced in the book. Not many people get that. I did, in the first edition of it, I had that fairly towards the back of the book. I moved it to somewhere nearer the front of the book, so it's more of a, hey, do the damn worksheet. Because nothing will happen until you do the worksheet.
And there are free worksheets online. You can just download them.
Yeah, they're all free.
Radicalforgiveness.com, is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all sorts of worksheets on there. All of them are free. We do have other paid programs as well, but for worksheet, well, yeah.
Mine's more of a comment than a question, but what's really just a thank you, because my father is in hospice right now, and so one of the things I struggle with is kind of what your question was. Like, I'm very, I asked him the other day, I was there, and I go, Sky Miles, Dad, do they transfer? Like, we need to do this research. Like, that's such a crass question. Like, how do you know that question? But I'm like, we do not want to lose those, okay? And so we proceeded to say, that reminds me of the joke where the guy is on his deathbed. And he says, do I smell chocolate chip cookies? And his wife says, fresh cookies. And he says, oh, I would love to have them. And she says, so for the funeral. Which is to say that my dad and I were very close. We talk about everything. I've asked him if he's afraid of death, what he thinks about it. He sounds like he's a little bit like your dad, that we don't have these deep conversations.
Yeah.
We don't say I love you, but he calls me Lee, and when he calls me Lily, then I know he's saying I love you.
Yeah.
But there are other but there are other people in the family who don't want to think about it or talk about it, and I've had to really struggle with that. But you just said, love it the way it is.
Yes.
And that's what I'm learning to do, is love it the way it is.
Yes. Now, I think you have some leverage with family, though.
Oh, you do? Please do tell.
I think there's some. You can create opportunities to have a conversation about it without attacking them.
Yes.
But getting them to see it from the point of view of you. How is your father? How's this landing for your father?
Yeah.
Is that helping him, or is it aiding him in the process of moving through? How old is your father?
He just turned 80.
Yeah. you know, he's ready, for God's sake. You know, I mean, you know, hospice is there, he's gonna be croaking very shortly, right? I mean, you know, that's just the way it is. So you can, I think you can try to help by trying to educate the family.
And I do a lot of that. I
Yeah.
am the person in the family who tries to like bring it to the surface and not try
Yeah.
to rug it.
Yeah.
But I think
But
there's
it
also
looks
a place
like
of,
Faye has a much harder issue.
with a friend, yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think people are where they are. And so
Exactly.
sometimes as hard as I try, I have to be, you know, like for the kids, I have to be present for the kids, the
Yeah.
little ones, whose parents don't really want to talk to them. So I have to like not disobey what the parents are doing, but still be around. But
Yeah.
I think it's that balance of loving it the way it is, but also, you
Yeah.
know, in your own family trying to make some progress.
Yeah.
But just,
The family members, you know, have a hard time balancing out all these different emotions. Because it's mostly emotional stuff that they're dealing with.
very much.
And it's not just stuff that's present, but probably from way back when, you know, 30 years ago, whatever. So it's difficult for everybody involved. But I guess the question is, how much does it help the person who is the dying person?
And it's so important to have the conversation, so thank you for raising the vibe. Yeah.
Let's see your
A
name.
comment too with siblings and family members and people who are passing. I think the climate is fear. I mean, yes, I'm gonna have my father passing away, but shit, I'm gonna die one day too. That's the feeling.
Yeah.
So our society doesn't address death like we watch that video in a loving and an exciting way.
No.
Death is a fear.
No, I mean, you know, when we're born, I mean, we're born into life, we live our life, as she said, with passion, and then we move on. So when we come in, the birth experience, we celebrate, right? We have this great showers and lots of food, and, you know, it's wonderful, right? But to get to the other end, quite often, that fear stuff comes up. Mortality. I'm going to die one day too, right? Maybe I've got this thing that's going on in my body. Maybe that's, I wonder what that is. You know, so fear is very much in
So we become a society of thinking, and we have, everybody's got a drink somewhere, a bar in their bag right now to prolong longevity and our health.
Exactly.
And everything is projected for the fear that you're going to be ill, and you're going to die. So it's
Yeah,
hard
okay.
to hold compassion sometimes as a
There's a guy-
sibling. That's all. So that's why that forgiveness thing comes in.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that helps a lot.
But we definitely have to try to change our vibes about death itself, because that's really the core, that we're frightened of death.
Yeah.
We're frightened of passing through death. Brian, sorry, I'll come back to you. Brian.
Can we become sick in our present life from lack of forgiveness in past lives?
No.
Can we become sick? Did you say
Sick in our present life,
sick? Oh, sick.
ill, sick, from lack of forgiveness in a past life?
You know, a lot of people ask me that, and I usually say, we have enough trouble dealing with this life.
Yeah,
I don't know about past lives. You know,
yeah,
there's so much complication when you start talking past life, but I think it's true.
Yeah.
I think we do bring forward into our current lives things from the past, but it's much more difficult to deal with them.
yeah,
And sometimes, when you do the work in this life, it has the effect of clearing it automatically back
releasing,
anyway.
yeah,
Especially if you hold that in your mind while you're doing it. When you're doing the forgiveness, like if there's one person that you're trying to forgive, right, in
Yeah.
this life, when you do the work, you can add something like, and all others who have treated me in this way, in this life and in the past, I forgive them too.
okay,
All right, so that begins to clear the energy back.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you for that
Thank you.
question. Nick?
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by the concept of the after-death support team. Because we've seen, I know Marie and I recently saw the whole Tibetan
Yes.
scenario where they sit with their body, they read from their scriptures, and their
Right.
spirits. they
Bardo.
cross. Exactly,
Yeah.
right. Because so many people I see, even in my own practice, that come with relatives that are at unrest, that past parents, grandparents, that are still impacting even their present life experience now. It would be just terrific to have a whole program
Yeah.
to address that.
Yes. There is a movement out there right now to train people as death doulas. Have you heard of that? A death doula. D-O-U-L-A, I think it's spelled. You know, there's a lot of acceptance of the birth doula. Yeah.
Right.
But there's now people that are starting to get trained. Unfortunately, though, the training is pretty sparse. As you know, once commercialism gets in there, you know, you have this weekend and you're a doula. Which is unfortunate. But my feeling about that is, like, some people try to appropriate radical forgiveness. And some of my coaches got a bit upset about that, and I used to say, look, you know, Spirit will take care of it. Spirit will not let people be exposed to people who are not qualified. So give it up. It's not a problem. And I think the same thing will happen with these people who are not really qualified. And most of them, anyway, that are being trained do not go as far as George can go, which is to converse with them on the other side. What the death doulas are trained to do, more or less, is to come in there and just, you know, be with the people, cut their toenails or whatever they need to do to make them comfortable, cook something for them or something like that, but not to have those kind of conversations based on the death and dying, the Tibetan book of the death and dying. That's something else, and that requires a lot of training, and I think apprenticeship. George will be doing that. He'll be training people, but it'll be a training that someone will have to be with him when, you know, several times that he does this experience. Because, like in my case, when I came back from England, when was it when we came back? It was only I came back in December. We spent a long time in England. Came back in December. I was pretty darn sick, and I thought I was going to go fairly soon. And George, at that time, because I was with this men's group, they wanted a special. For when I came home, they said, "We've got to have a special meeting." You know, what they was really saying was, "We want to save your ass because you're dying." I came home and I was pretty sick, but I didn't look too bad. But he said to me, you know, he said, "Colin, no matter what," he said, "I'll be with you through every step of the way with this, no matter what. No matter what, I'll be there for you." And so that was huge. But he has that skill, though. He has that ability to know what he can converse with me telepathically, and he will be able to do that while I'm on the other side as well. So
it takes a special skill.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and here's the other thing that I was going to. I lost my thread for a second, but what happened was I didn't die as early as he thought. I'm still hanging about, right? Alive and kicking, more or less. So, as a death companion, he's sort of, well, he's waiting, you know, when is he going to die? So all of that comes into that, you know. It's quite complicated and difficult, but he will be able to train people, but only through a sort of an apprenticeship type thing where somebody has to be with him and follow him to what he does and already have the ability to be telepathic. How many people are telepathic in this room? You are? A little bit, yeah.
We wing it.
Wing it, yeah. How many again? Let's see. Okay. Can you converse with them, with people on the other side? You can. Good. So you could do that work.
I could. Yeah, I've worked for hospice for 2
years.
Ah, well, that's a tremendous start.
Back in my late 20s, when I wasn't quite totally awake, and things were happening, and I
Yeah.
knew that I was like midlifing these people the other side. And then just 2 years ago, a year ago, I helped my grandmother cross over, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
I'm totally in sync, and I was told by Spirit to go to her crown. I didn't know that she was about to take off, but literally all of a sudden it just started going through my whole body. I was like chills, vibrating. And she was scared. And then all of a sudden my third eye opened and I saw the other side and the beauty of it. I said, Grandma, walk into the beauty. It's all for you. She was terrified of me. And I felt her go. And it was just like, it was so amazing. It was so incredible.
What a story.
Yeah. It was like cosmic winds were blowing in my hair and the gate opened.
Yeah.
We were right in that world together.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a gift that you have, that you could, pass into doing the work if you felt like doing it. I mean, I'll put you in touch with George if you want to. Would you like to?
I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah.
I would like to
You would.
be in touch with George also.
You would.
How do you spell his last name?
It's a French name. Poirier is Poirier. Poirier.
I could hear too when people are about to leave their body, there's this high buzzing sound that happens. Because I had an AIDS patient once and I just met him. I was with him for like 2 hours and the nurse was in there taking whatever records, and the family stepped outside for a drink because they finally had a break. And all of a sudden I walked in and it was like I could see energy coming down like this, and I could hear this high buzzing. And I was like, oh, he's leaving. And I literally ran out and told the family to come and quick, he's leaving. And why would I do that? What if I was wrong? Like, how crazy, right? And we left like 2 minutes later. So when the portal opens, you can hear it too.
But I think.
And who else can do that? Who else?
We had an experience, the reason I'm asking, we had this really profound experience many years ago, my wife and I. We were in Brazil, we had just gotten there, and we were staying at this large home to give a seminar. And the first night we were there, in the middle of the night, we were hearing these drawers opening and slamming and shutting in the corridor. And I peeked out because I wanted to get sleep from my jet lag. I was like, my God, there's more noise going on. I need some rest before tomorrow. But I didn't see anything out there. And the next morning, the lady said, well, I have this problem ever since my mother passed away. The drawers in this area where we keep some of the family jewels and belongings, they keep opening and shutting. We hear it. So she said, can you help? And I said, I've never done anything like that before, but I guess I'm here to do something. So I sat that night, we all held hands, and I got an impression of the lady, and she was giving me this sense that she was really upset because the daughters were having problems deciding on where the wealth would be distributed, because it was a quite wealthy family. And so I got this thing, look inside the drawers. As I opened the drawers, there's just hundreds of pearl necklaces and jewels and whatnot. And I tried to reassure her, and with one of the sisters there, she agreed that she would talk it out with her sister, who she had been arguing with for a long time about it. And from that point on, it stopped. And the lady, I had a feeling, left and went to the light.
Yeah.
But it was the first experience we had with that. So I was saying, wow, there is something to it all.
Yeah. Well, you were drawn to being there at that moment.
Yes.
I mean, you didn't realize that you had that gift at all, but you were drawn to it. And that's happened to me a couple of times, where one of the people I was dealing with, she couldn't get beyond the issue she had with someone. I forget now what it was. So I said, I'm going to come to your house, because I thought she had an attachment. So her sister hadn't left her. That was what it was. It was something to do with her sister, with a younger sister, and she didn't want to die. She wanted to hang on. And I had a strong feeling that her sister was attached. So we came to the house, and like you, we did a little ceremony. The parents didn't even know what we were doing. They were kind of going. But we just asked, and I think it was a Susan or something, Susan, move into the light. It's okay for you to die. It's okay, it's safe. That's a word we use a lot. It's safe.
It's safe.
Yeah, so it's safe to go. And it did, and that was it. So that kind of thing is not difficult. I think what Amanda's talking about those is a stronger gift.
Yes, of course.
To be able to really connect with somebody through the dying process, right? Can you do it at any time? Can you do a reading for someone, for instance?
Oh, at any time?
Or is it around just the
Seems to
death
be
and
right
dying?
around transition.
Yeah, the transition. Yeah. Wonderful gift.
I think with that, if you have a service like that, I had a friend that died 4 years ago, and we have somebody in our friend group that's very intuitive, and he just instantly went to her. And I mean, we were at his funeral, we were at his memorial, and he was right there communicating through this girl. And I feel like that you gain a lot more information from the person on the other side. Like, they're able to better help everyone with what if it's information you need, or maybe what direction to go. We got a lot of info from the other side, and my wife and I are actually married because of it. You know, he told us we were going to be married, you know.
Awesome.
And he Lee knows this, you know. And it's so intense in the beginning because he was so excited. I mean, this guy just basically dropped dead from an aneurysm, and then he's flying around everywhere trying to communicate with people. It was mostly through symbols or whatever, but he literally would come to me and be like, I'll be back in a minute, I gotta go talk to my parents, you know, and he would go around and check on everybody. But I think there's a lot to be gained by having that service as somebody is passing, because you really do learn, if there's stuff to be learned, you know, the family, friends.
It sounds as though that you have the ability to connect with the other side.
Yeah.
That you can nourish. So don't get divorced.
And it was, no, I mean, it was months of information. You know, we'd be hanging out, and all of a sudden he would show up. If our friend CK was there, he would just show up and be like, you need to do this more, you need, you know, and it would just happen so quick, and then he'd be gone. But, you know, it really is a positive thing to have that.
Yeah, if it's real.
Yeah.
Real.
Yeah.
I had one guy in a workshop one time, you'll have to excuse my language, but you know, while I was talking, he kept interrupting and saying, my guides are telling me so-and-so. My guides are telling this. My guides are saying this. You know, kept on and on with these damn guides, right? So I got really upset. I said, look, you tell your guys to fuck off. This is my workshop.
They probably like that.
Joey.
Colin, my guides are telling me that. I'm curious, so there's not many people that at least consciously have this gift, and we're going to have many more people dying than we have doulas to help them. So is there, like, in your book, this new one you're writing, are you going to have any kind of, like, a plan for the family, or like, you know, a guide or a map? Because, you know, most people are going to be dealing with their family members dying, and they're not going to have access to a doula or you know, somebody who has a sixth sense consciously.
I don't have anything, Joey, really, because I didn't set out to do that. What I set out to do was just to record my own journey, and how I was faced with certain choices. Did I make a mistake when I made this choice as opposed to that one? That kind of thing. It was more reflective of what was going on with me during this period of time, so that people could at least look at it and say, yes, I can identify with that. You know, that was really the purpose of it. Now, there are other books that do provide that kind of information that you're looking for. And Melody LeBaron, that was the lady that I was talking about earlier on, who came and spent a couple of days with us going through that work, right? And if you want, I don't know whether it's of interest to you, you know, personally, but if you want to connect with her, that's easy enough. Melody LeBaron,
She's writing a book. and
she's writing a book, the ones that I read forward to. That's a beautiful book, and that is actually task-oriented. It's what you have to do. You know, this page, you know, deals with emotional factors, and there's worksheets in it. It's a very, very good book. But it wasn't my task. It wasn't my. That's not what I set out to do, really.
I think I was more asking if you knew of a plan more than whether you were doing one, but, so I could connect.
Do I have a plan?
No, not you. Do you know of a plan out there for a family who's going through this, who doesn't have access to doulas or?
Well, I would say that Lead Light book is a perfect one.
Good.
Perfect one. But somebody in the family has got to take a lead.
Yeah.
If you're just trying to wait for it, you know, everybody will get upset with each other and so on. So there's got to be somebody that has read it through, understands what the process is, and says, let's get the family together. I think I've got something to share. That would be what I would suggest. Is that?
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Where are we? More questions? Are we done? I'm glad to see some men in the group.
I have a question if we can go back to the forgiveness.
Yeah, no, but,
Part
yeah.
of it, because I use a process, I'm involved in a philosophy or process, and Faye is too, and Joey, called nonviolent communication.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that philosophy or consciousness, there would be nothing to forgive.
Definitely.
So how is that comparable to the forgiveness work? Because in that one, no one can ever do anything to you.
Right.
And you just wouldn't take it personally. You would more look at the good reasons that person's doing whatever they're doing. Usually needs way under the radar.
Yeah.
So how is that comparable to the?
It's exactly comparable.
Okay.
You end up in exactly that place. So you start out with the idea that everything happens for a reason. There's nothing that happens in your life that is not either self-created through your own spiritual intelligence, which you can interpret as, I don't know, to me it's just another form of psychic intelligence that we have that we don't speak about. We have mental and we have emotional, and I believe we have spiritual intelligence, which is through the kind of thing this group is doing, which is coming to the fore. You are raising the consciousness, but you're raising it through your spiritual intelligence, not through your mentality. Your brain is useless for this kind of work, your mind. Mentality, well, it can open a few doors, but it can't change anything. It takes this spiritual intelligence to look at what's going on and recognize the perfection in it, to recognize that nothing wrong is happening, that it's all meant to be the way, it's all meant to unfold exactly how it's meant to unfold. It's like Nick being being at that place at that time. That's exactly how it was meant to be. Spirit is our own spirit. I'm not talking about something up here. Our own spirit brings us to places where we need to be at any particular time, and to have experiences of any particular nature that we need to have, which may or may not look like a tragedy, i.e. cancer of the rectum. It looks a little bit like a tragedy, but it isn't. It's exactly what I need, right? Exactly what I need. And it's what I've accepted into myself for a reason. It hasn't invaded me, I've invited it in. And in that sense, I love it. I love my cancer. I'm saying yes to my cancer. That's the title of the book. So once
there are no victims.
So once you get to that point of saying that everything is happening for a reason and so on, then and nothing wrong is happening, or nothing bad or nothing right or wrong is happening, because we don't judge anything. It just is, right? It's not that it's good or bad or better than. It just is. Then you come to the obvious conclusion that nothing wrong is happening, therefore there's nothing to forgive. Absolutely. There is nothing to forgive because nothing wrong is happening. Now, your mentality, of course, will say that's bullshit. Right? That's what your mind will say. How can that, come on, what are you talking about? Perfect. How can that be perfect? How can a little baby of 10-month-old get cancer and die? How can that be perfect? How can it be perfect that Hitler killed 6 million Jews? How can that be perfect? Right? So our mind cannot handle it. It just cannot handle it. As much as we do this philosophy and we come and we have meetings and you say, yeah, nothing wrong is happening, it's damn hard to really get it deep down in your body that that's how it is. So we have to rely on things like the Radical Forgiveness worksheets to get beyond that resistance that we feel in our mentality. And the worksheet and the stuff on the worksheets take us to that place that's beyond our comprehension as to how it works. But it takes us to where we can accept at some point, at some place in our beingness, that everything is perfect just the way it is and nothing wrong is happening. And there's nothing to forgive. So the spiritual intelligence will overcome the mentality. And it will do it automatically. It's not that we have to, you won't understand it. When you do these worksheets, and I'm the same, I said, it's stupid bloody worksheets, what am I supposed to do? I don't want to do it. She says, have you done a worksheet yet? I said, I don't want to do a damn worksheet. I have to do it though, because otherwise it won't work. And I'm going through a struggle right now, which I'll be putting into my book. I had, one of the things I chose to do, how many of you actually, no one would have read that book. I chose to do a thing called Self-Sonic. It's a machine that was Self-Sonic. You won't be able to find it anywhere. It was shipped from India. And it's a long story, but it turned out that I was screwed for $23,000. So I went to where most people would go. Bastard. A shithouse. I'll get my revenge son. I'll get the lawyers onto him. Right? This is my ego now. My ego completely takes over. I'll make sure he, is reported to the FDA and all that, because it was a spoof. I don't know what the word you call it. I'll make sure the FDA, gets a hold of him and so on. And I talked about it to a friend of mine who's also an Arnold Patent fan. We were in an Arnold Patent group for years. And he listened to me going on and on about it. He said, where's the perfection in that, Colin? In other words, he busted my story. Right? He thoroughly busted my story. So now I'm having to look at it from the point of view, what have I created? Look what I've created. See, there are four things you can do. Besides doing a worksheet, you can do something right in the moment that something happens. You can write these down if you want. I'll give you time. There are 4 steps. The first step is, look what I've created. Number 1. Number 2, I notice my feelings and my judgments, but I love myself anyway. I notice my feelings and my judgments, but I love myself anyway. So that's recognizing that we're human beings, we're going to feel these things, we're going to judge, that's who we are. So just let it be what it is. Number 3, and this is the big step. I'm willing to see the perfection in this situation. I'm willing to see the perfection in this situation. the final one is, I choose peace. You'll be amazed at how that will change the energy. The first step is about taking responsibility. I created it. I somehow pulled this man in, an Englishman, by the way. We're all crooks, right? I pulled in this guy to run me through and pretend that he had a healing thing for me, that I would, if I bought this machine, I'd be able to use it to heal my cancer. Okay, because I was still in that frame of mind that, yeah, I'm willing to try something out. And we thought that we'd buy the machine, and then we would, if it worked, then we could sell it on to other doctors, alternative doctors, to use. So I would get some of that money, or most of that money back, if not more. So it was an investment, $23,000, I thought. But look what I created. Okay. So now that's what I'm struggling with, even now. I have to keep telling myself, look what I created. I notice my feelings and my judgments, and I love myself anyway, because I'm a human being. But I'm willing to see the perfection in this situation, and I choose peace. You say it that quickly, something happens energetically.
That third step is the lead. See the perfection.
Yeah, the third step is the lead. Yeah. Yeah, but just saying it connects in with your spiritual intelligence, you see. More questions? Yes.
I want to just say that we were wondering sometimes if the spirit keep, when we pass on or we're taking these illnesses with us. I think, like you've spoken about with forgiveness, I mean, I do speak. I can hear a lot of people who are deceased, and anybody that's close to my family, I ask questions of, and I literally ask those questions. Do you still, you're my family and you're coming to me, so I want to know these things. And they do not talk about their illness, but their personality, the things that made them maybe a curmudgeon or something like this, is still there. So that's ironic that they don't forgive themselves for certain things.
Yeah.
My father-in-law was an alcoholic, and he said, I can't ask for forgiveness for that. I had to go through that, and that's just what it is. And he, through his life, he died as a result of alcoholism. But his personality was the same, and he says, I'm not going to ask for forgiveness. That's what I had to go through, and I did it. And
well, part of him is correct there. He said it's what I have to go through. So he's saying, look what I created, but I'm not using that word forgiveness, right?
He wouldn't use it either.
No. No. Because it's, especially with the men, they think it's weak.
Mm-hmm. But he could, when speaking with him, you can see the damage that it happened. He's like, I would have married her again, and I would have had your husband as a son, and I would have done all those things just as they were. I would have done the same things. Yeah. So it's interesting, but they do want to talk about it, and they do want to still communicate with you once they've passed. But they're not going to change their experience that was here. And that was, if I couldn't forgive anybody and I had to go through this illness, then that's what I had to do.
Yeah, and it is just another way of saying, the perfection of what is.
But it's comforting for those who were left behind to at least even have that communication. I mean, my husband does not hold anything against his father at all. He says, feels very blessed that he would come and speak to him and give him any kind of words from beyond. And he doesn't need his forgiveness as the person left behind.
Right.
This reminds, it's beautiful what you shared, because it reminds me of a good friend of ours, had a younger brother who was schizophrenic and had been put on very heavy neuroleptic medicines and developed a Parkinson-like syndrome very early, so he actually ended up passing away when he was about 25. And, they were feeling very guilty about this, that maybe they could have made other decisions, maybe they could have gone a more natural route or something. And about, I don't know, about 3 or 4 months after he passed, the family was still in that guilt, regret space, not accepting this passing and the situation. Suddenly, the mother gets a call from a well-known medium in that city that tells her, your brother is, or your son is bugging the shit out of me. He gave me your telephone number. You need to hear what he has to say. And the mother at first is like, and then the medium says, but I want you to know it's true because there's only one name you know you called him when he was quite young. And she gave the name, and the mother suddenly purposed, so what's the message? And she said, he wants you to know that he had to go through this. This was a part of his process, and that he loves all of you very much, and he's dancing in the light. And that just completed the whole thing. Again, the perfection is such an important piece of it.
But we could, with the forgiveness, this is what we want. We want to learn how to forgive so we can have more peace on the other side. And we can leave that with the other people that are here. And then the people who are younger than us and aren't experiencing illness learn forgiveness and not have to go through anything, and everything just becomes more peaceful even after that.
You know, the problem is that we've been brought up to think that forgiveness is difficult. Not only difficult, but like I said earlier on, weak.
Yeah, strong people don't do that.
Yeah, not manly, not macho, that kind of thing.
Colin, I'm sorry, it's even worse than that. We're taught revenge. We're taught revenge through movies and, you know, everything is, we're taught revenge.
Oh yeah.
Which is the opposite.
Exactly. Yeah, the whole social system pretty much supports that idea. But, where was I going before you interrupted?
Carolyn Mace, who talks about soul contracts, and that's why when you first heard her talk.
Yeah, I was going to come to that with that. What was your question? What were we talking about?
Well, we were just going off of what Nick said about that we have to go through that in our lifetime, and then we can all learn forgiveness, even if we're not going to be eminently.
The point I wanted to make is that, you know, it isn't difficult if you do radical forgiveness. In fact, radical forgiveness is so easy, it's like falling off a log. It's almost too easy because people think, well, it can't work. You know, so that's the first thing that I wanted to point out, and we have to get that message over, that it is easy to do if you, as long as you use the worksheets, as long as you use those tools, it's easy to do. Are you going, Mariana?
Yes.
Give Araceli my love.
I will. Thank you so much. I'm going out of town, so I gotta go.
Will you see her?
I won't see her, but I will WhatsApp her as soon as I get in my car. And send her that picture.
Please.
Thank you.
Araceli. The Soul Contract. Now, there's a good book by, what's his name? Robert Schwartz. Robert Schwartz wrote a really good book called The Soul's Plan. The medium thing made me think about this. He was a pretty, straight guy, just very intellectual and so on, but he had an experience. What was the experience, roughly?
I don't know the exact experience.
But he had some sort of spiritual experience that he wasn't used to. It wasn't in his usual mindset at all. So he, being analytical, he decided that he was going to research this a little bit. So he put out an email to a load of people. I don't know who it was, how many people it was, but he put out an email requesting some stories about how people had been hurt or damaged in some way along, and to send him these stories. And out of about 1,000, he picked 10. And he picked 10 that were fairly ordinary. It wasn't that they were, incredible stories, just things that happen in life. And he sent these stories to several people. One would have been a medium, one would have been a channeler, and the other one was a psychic. And she sent them all to those three to analyze. And what came back was almost identical from all three. And one of them could actually hear the conversation that happened in the soul group before they came in. Yeah. So that was interesting in itself. And then there was one story that came back. The person had, when it was born premature, so it was in one of those little, what do you call them, the incubators. And the nurse who was looking after it, unfortunately, put too much oxygen in it and blinded the kid. Okay. Well, apparently that wasn't in the program. So the guides for this child said, well, let's take you back and we'll start over. That's not what we, or decided that we would do. And by the way, the soul plan is something which a group of souls usually get around and discuss, and you decide, look, I'll come into your life and I'll screw you up when you're about 45 years of age, and make sure you go to prison and all that. And then you'll have this beautiful experience of being in prison. And in return, you'll give me something to do, terrible divorce. So anyway, they said, we can take you back if you like, and we'll start over. Because that wasn't, you didn't decide on that. That wasn't what the group decided. So the soul apparently said, well, you know what? This could be an interesting challenge. I think I'll go with this one. I'll live my life as a blind person and see how that feels. And that was that one.
And it was at that same time that his future wife said, I do not want to be married to a blind man. I am out of this contract.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I do not choose to be
Interesting.
Yeah. So it shifts and changes.
Are you familiar with Michael Newton's works, Light Between Lines? Some of these contract. There was I love this story. It's a humorous note of a true story that happened in Europe. This woman was giving birth to a little baby boy, and it was witnessed by the doctor, the nurse, the husband, and of course the giving birth. And as the little baby comes out, and they watch the baby's eyes and they cut the cord, the baby's eyes open in perfect English says, "Oh no, not again." And then, of course, in that moment, starts screaming and crying. Right. So just for a moment, the veil goes off, and it was. It was in the New York Times. I think that's
Well, there's a humorous story I always tell about this. Is a soul, decided. He said, guys, I've had a pretty good life for several times. Very rich and very good life. And not many bad things happened to me. But he said, I think I'll just go in for a very short period of time, about 3 months, where I have nothing, just to feel what it would be like to have nothing. What do you want to do? So I said, well, send me down to a place where there's a famine going on, where nobody's got any food and clothes and nobody's surviving, they have to drink dirty water and all the rest of it. Send me there. All right, well, that sounds pretty stiff. You sure? Yeah, that's what I want to do. So down he goes, his name's Fred. 3 months goes by, and they were waiting. The whole group was saying, Fred should be back by now. Since 3 months had gone by. He said he was going to come back. 17 years went by. 17 years. And eventually, up pops Fred. Where the hell have you been? You said you were wanting to go in for 17 years. And he said, I know, but those damn missionaries kept feeding me.
We might want to wrap it up, Kristen, if you want to. I'm sure, well, yeah, just thank you, Mr. Colin. This has been so special. And thanks to all of you who organized, Joey and Rebecca and Lee for hosting us, and everybody that contributed to the discussion today. It's been wonderful to hear all your voices, weigh in. It's just an amazing topic. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And you have some books for sale.
Yeah, we have some books out there. The CDs are free. Just take whatever you want in the CDs. But if you want to drop $10 for a book, Getting to Heaven on a Harley is a bit of a laugh. Okay, because there's a story about a guy who dies in the first paragraph.
Oh,
On a
wow.
motorbike, right? He crashes his motorbike. Doesn't know he's dead. But he's looking at his motorbike and saying, God damn it, whoever that was who died. Anyway, he meets someone else who's been hanging about there for a long time. He crashed his Jaguar car 3 years before. So they team up.
I love it.
The guy with the Jaguar, he said, I can't go up in the light, they'll punish me. I've lived a very bad life. And they said, oh no, that's all right. He said, well, we'll go up the light if we can go and get a drink first. We'll get some spirit inside us. And they said, spirit? You're already spirit, So
Don't tell all the stories.
We have till like 12:30. Please stick around till about 12:30. Have another muffin. Visit with Colin. Visit with all.
Check out the resource table. We have some different people who do different types of healing, breath work, yoga. They have stuff at the resource table, and some of them can introduce you to themselves. Can I give you a little gift? Speaking of spirit, this is spirit molecule water. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, Dr. Moto's, that you can actually change water through intention. So, wanted to give that to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for great
Thanks.
muffins and more refreshments.